In this video, I'm going to start off by talking about the differences in quantitative studies when you're taking exposure measurements into considerations versus regular quantitative studies where this may not be a consideration. When you're thinking about exposure measurements, these types of measurements may actually vary by time. There are many different parameters to be considering when you're thinking about exposure measurements. But another thing to be understanding is the dose-response relationship that is so crucial in exposure measurement studies. When you manipulate the actual dose that is in the input, whether you're measuring it within an animal or within a human, the output or the whatever the outcome you actually see. And this relationship oftentimes is in a very linear fashion. And so this is something that you look for traditionally in these types of studies. So applying several types of examples like this can help to elucidate this relationship. They're very much like studying the effect of medicine in that the graph that you create is what you would call directly proportional. You have to understand that the level of hazard or toxicant is exerting an effect on the human body. And you have to not only be aware of the level of the toxicant, but you also have to know that the particular toxicant, what it is, what type of damage can it cause. And the reason this is called the dose response is because the amount of toxicant received then will impact the human or animal. And then the response experienced through the negative effects and magnitude is what the person feels. So as it turns out, the dosage is what is manipulated and actually empirically charted within the graph. Threshold doses are assessed constantly. And so you'll administer a dose, amount, or toxicant, and then measure some sort of response. This is actually mapped out in an X and Y axis and things like that. But I think some of the important things is low toxicity means high LD50 because LD means lethal dose. And so it takes a large dose to kill 50% of the population. So that is really important to kind of follow. In addition to the lethal effects of a toxicant, scientists may also look for non-lethal effects of the substance as well. And then also it's important to look at threshold doses. So these are doses that you can kind of explore on your own, definitions that you can explore that I've introduced here. I hope you have kind of a brief introduction into this curve and how these studies differ from traditional type of epidemiological methodological studies.